Hey, it's Kai here from Family Wheels with another car review for your growing family, and boy am I glad I had this to drive around in on a week of some challenging winter driving conditions. The 2020 Jeep Grand Cherokee, the lucky last model year on the long-running fourth generation, and it's still got a lot of pros like it's a Jeep. It's still got a lot of cons like it's a Jeep. Let's go find out what they are and see if it's the right car for you and your growing family this week with the 2020 Jeep Grand Cherokee on Family Wheels. So this fourth generation Jeep Grand Cherokee originally went on sale as a 2011 model in the summer of 2010, which means coming up this summer in 2020, this fourth generation would have been going for an entire decade. You might be thinking sales must have slumped after 10 years. Actually, 2019 was their biggest year in North America for this particular generation of the Jeep Grand Cherokee. But I mean, at the end of the day, you got to update it at some stage. The outside, I think, still holds up, looks really, really nice. Sometimes the inside is feeling a little bit tired and can do with an update. What we do know about the next generation coming in 2021 is that it's going to have a longer wheelbase, we think, which some people are asking, does that mean it's going to have a third row in the back? Reports are no. Jeep actually has a different car coming which is going to accommodate for a third row in the back. You'd imagine that also allow for a better fuel economy by putting in the turbocharged four-cylinder which is currently in the Jeep Wrangler as the base model option. And I would expect to see some kind of hybrid option coming for Jeep with the Grand Cherokee in 2021 also. What is new for 2020 though? So there's nothing new or revolutionary to the car, but there's just a shift around in what's available on different trim levels. For example, the active safety group is now available as an option on every trim level, which has things like the adaptive cruise control with stop, forward collision mitigation with braking, lane departure warning with lane keeping assist, and your parking assistant, which now has parallel parking and perpendicular parking assistant if you want it, available on every trim level, but it is standard on this one, the Summit trim. So in Canada you have 11 trim levels still. In the US you have 12. Now let's get rid of the top two, which is like the Trackhawk and the SRT, which are kind of in a world on their own. So below that we have 9 trim levels in Canada, which means you really can still find a Jeep Grand Cherokee to suit every single budget. So this will start in the Laredo trim in Canada, $46,145. Way less in the States, $33,540. But in the States, you actually still get the choice of rear wheel or four-wheel drive through the entire trim levels. But in Canada, four-wheel drive is standard. That's pretty common. Lots of car brands do that. Now this one is the Summit. So this is right up there near the top, and it has a couple of extra options added to it as well, which does price it at $78,000 Canadian. That is a big chunk of change. The interior is lovely. I can't imagine you're going to get a better interior than this in any Jeep of any model, but that is a big chunk of change. Now to put that in perspective, the brand new redesign, the 2020 Ford Explorer, this would be $15,000 more than the top trim, the Platinum. It's also $10,000 more than the Range Rover Velar R Dynamic. If you went for this one, the Summit, with all these extras, is that worth more than those two others? If it's just luxury that you're going after, you might be able to save yourself some cash. But if you want luxury with those four-wheel drive capabilities, maybe you're on the money. And it could have been even more. This doesn't have a $2,500 black roof. Why you'd get that, I'm not sure. And it also doesn't have the 5.7 litre V8 Hemi, which is another $2,900 in Canada. This has the 3.6 litre V6 putting out 295 horsepower and 260 pound-feet of torque, which I actually think is enough. This engine is very capable and has plenty of grunt to it. But that fuel economy is probably something they're going to look to improve in 2021, because this will get 11.3 litres per 100 kilometres, which is 21 miles per gallon. So it's not terrific, and that's on the V6. It's going to be more on the 5.7 Hemi, obviously. It also has a 6,200 pound towing capacity, so you can tow a really nice sized trailer behind this. But if you want to go for the 5.7 litre V8, you can actually tow 720 pounds, which is terrific towing capacity. But what you are getting is a car with exceptional off-road capabilities, and you also have terrific space on the inside. This is a mid-size SUV, but it is quite luxurious. Well, this one on the Summit, we're going to get to some of these added options in a second. But in terms of space, this has 1,027 litres of cargo space right up the back, which is huge. Passes our standardized test. But then in the back, you've also got some good space as well. So our rear-facing kid seat test, we use on purpose a very big kid seat. This is the Collect Flow, and they've still got plenty of space in the back. The front passenger still has plenty of room as well, and an adult can sit in the back and go on a long drive in relative comfort also. The child seat anchors were actually a little bit hard to find. They weren't exposed. You had to go digging for them a little bit. This one also on the Summit has nice reclinable back seats, which are good. It has heated front and back seats. So comfort for passengers is not a problem. It does feel bulky, like it has that Jeep sort of, or North American sort of SUV bulky feel to some of the dash and everything, but it's traded off by the fact that you do have exceptional space in this car. But then it's next to some telltale signs that this is a Jeep. Things like your steering wheel buttons, your power window buttons, your tactile buttons on the climate control here, they all feel cheaper and very Jeep-like. So you've got these nice things next to it, and then you've got those old Jeep things. All right, let's take this thing for a ride. Okay, so the V6 Pentastar 3.6 litre, 295 horsepower, 260 pound-feet of torque, and it's got that 8-speed automatic transmission, which is pretty good. The gear changes are not necessarily fast, they're a bit laboured at times, but it's not really a performance vehicle. It's built to pair up with that pretty rugged and robust off-road system, which is down here. So just with this wheel, you can have it set on auto, you can have it to sand, snow, mud, or rock, and depending on which one you have it on, it will actually engage or disengage your traction control. So sand and snow, actually sand, it's going to turn it off, snow, it's going to turn it back on, mud, it will turn it off, and then rock, you actually, to get into rock, you have to engage low range 4-wheel drive, which is just your other button down here as well. And then next to that, you've got your Quadralift airbag suspension button, so you can put that up and down depending on the terrain that you're going through. And you can actually overheat that. I was using it a little bit too much to do some filming, and it did overheat, so it asked for me to just hold off a couple of minutes until it cooled down. But it also allows for a much more comfortable ride. Apparently, if you've got just the regular suspension without the Quadralift, then it can be a bit bumpy on some rougher roads or maybe through some potholes, but this airbag suspension provides a really nice, comfortable ride. The steering on it is actually really light, and it doesn't necessarily change depending on how you've got it. Actually, I've got sport mode here. I haven't actually even bothered trying that. That doesn't change anything. That just holds my revs just up a little bit. And sport mode is indicated on the dash by a green checkered flag. It's like a British racing checkered flag. But in terms of having confidence for different demanding off-road situations, I mean, it's tough to go past a Jeep. It was awesome this week. While the roads were pretty rough and other people were getting stuck everywhere, I had some snow tires on this with the 20-inch wheels, pop it up a level if I needed to. It performed fantastic this week. The driver safety assistance packages are available on the tactile buttons down here. So you've got your parking control, which it'll ask you on the dash if you want to do parallel or perpendicular parking. Let's give it a try. There we go. Space found. Stop. Remove hands from the wheel. Always makes me nervous. Works good. The reverse camera is not terrific resolution. It doesn't have an extensive amount of different sensors and warnings, etc. on the screen. It's reasonably basic. The rest of the interior, let's take a look at the Uconnect 4 infotainment system, which remarkably is actually one of the better ones available, I think. This is the 8.4-inch screen. In some of the lower trim levels, you've got a 7-inch screen. The 8.4 is really nice. It's responsive. The screen resolution is quite crisp. It's got plenty of things on there. Apple CarPlay, Android Auto are standard from the base model, which is awesome. This one has the heated steering wheel and seats, which are controllable pretty quickly and easily on its own screen. The navigation is pretty poor. It's got pretty low resolution, but if you've got Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, it's just not something that I think you're going to be using very much anyway, so that doesn't necessarily matter. You also have Sport Shift on this automatic transmission, transmission and paddles as well, if you want to use them. I haven't used them once in an entire week, but if you want to, they're available for you. The dash is pretty basic as well. It's got some, you know, just your general capabilities in terms of what you can see on the front here. It's nothing special. That's something that I think other cars that might be on sale for $78,000 might have an improvement in. Like, you've only got one lever over here which does your indicator and also your windscreen wipers, and it's clunky and it's stiff. And the same thing about the select terrain knob. It's really stiff and clunky, and I wonder how that might feel if you're going to have this car long term. That's one of the things that lets this down a little bit. Some of those final finishing touches on the inside, which is something that Jeep isn't necessarily famous for, that kind of lets it down just a little bit. A missed opportunity for Jeep on this one would have been to put in some more storage options on the inside. So, I mean, they've still got the well-known Jeep netting on the back of the driver's seat and the passenger seat. I would have thought in this car or this trim level, they would put some, you know, bigger things to have some more things stored in there and more secure. And then even the door trimmings on the front don't have a lot of space. And then you've got the center console, which seems large, but then when this one's got the DVD player, that's where they store the DVD player. So you've got absolutely no room to store things. By the way, the DVD does sit in like that. You can fit that and maybe one other, and that's about it. So interior storage would have been fantastic on a car like this, but they just didn't offer that. So that's the 2020 Jeep Grand Cherokee, the final model year in the long-running 4th generation. Could it use some updates? Absolutely. Is it still a capable family 4-wheel drive? Absolutely. Hopefully you found this review useful. If you have, make sure you give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you can catch all of our reviews as soon as they come out every single week. Until next time, from Family Wheels, I'm Kai.